Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello guys, how are you today? I hope all of us always in a good condition and still healthy, and may Allah always guide us and protect us. Amin. Okay, in this opportunity, I would like to discuss to inform you about this book with the title The Sociology of Education, a Systematic Analysis by Jenny H. Ballantyne, Floyd M. Hamad, Jenny Schubert. Okay, uh, we will discuss about the point is equality of educational opportunity. A look at racial and ethnic differences and inequalities by me, Aulia Maziatul Hikmah. This chapter explores racial and ethnic inequalities in education. With respect to race and ethnicity, students enter the school system with different resources and cultural orientations. We have 7 points. The first is racial and ethnic inequalities in educational opportunity. And then the second, research on equality of educational opportunity and educational outcomes. The third is unequal schooling, the role of resources. The fourth is unequal schooling, the role of family, culture, and social psychology. And then the fifth is a clash of cultures, schooling beyond black and white. The sixth is efforts to combat racial or ethnic inequalities in education. And then the seventh is racial and ethnic inequalities in education, past, present, and future. So, let's discuss. The first, racial and ethnic inequalities in educational opportunity. Racial and ethnic inequalities in educational achievement exist. The inequalities that we see today are the contemporary reflection of an educational system built on segregation and inequality. Over time, inequalities in educational achievement accumulate and translate into racial and ethnic inequalities in educational attainment. White and Asian American students are significantly more likely to complete a college degree compared to African Americans, Latinos, and Native Americans. To some extent, the inequalities that we see today are the contemporary reflection of an educational system built on segregation and inequality. And then the second, research on equality of educational opportunity and educational outcomes. Today, considerable debate exists over educational inequalities and the role that segregation, school funding, disparities, social psychology, and culture play. In this section, we explore the range of explanation for the racial disparities in education. Our journey begins with a focus on macro-level factors, or those that emerge from the structure of schooling. We follow with a look at micro-level factors, or those that emerge from the families and students who attend those schools. The third is unequal schooling, the role of resources. Most children in the United States attend a segregated school. They also tend to attend schools with unequal resources because a large portion of school funding comes have smaller budgets than those with higher priced homes and viable businesses. Because of these funding differences, students from different racial groups typically attend schools with unequal levels of school resources. Based on these patterns, it is tempting to conclude that segregated schools are fundamentally unequal schools, and that the disparity in resources accounts for the lingering racial gaps in educational achievement and attainment, especially when it comes to high equality teachers. access to resources is especially critical for minority students. Research shows that lower quality teachers are concentrated in schools with higher concentrations of students who are in poverty and are minorities. This pattern suggests that schools with lower income and minority students are more likely to be staffed by teachers of lower quality, who then struggle to produce learning gains in their students. The next is unequal schooling, the role of family, culture, and social psychology. Let we start with family. Family have the role in unequal schooling. The first is the ability to succeed in school takes shape even before a child is born. During fetal development, stress experienced by expectant mothers may transfer in utero to the developing child. Because of this, during pregnancy, give birth to children who have greater difficulty with emotional regulation and paying attention, and delayed or impaired cognitive development. The second, race and early life experiences also shape students' later educational outcomes via exposure to health threats in urban areas. Many lower income residents live in homes and neighborhoods that literally make them sick. This is especially the case for lower and in some cases middle income minority groups. The third is as children move through school, researchers know that the home environment is critical for shaping attitudes toward and success in school. The next is culture. Educational attitudes impact educational engagement and school success. One additional factor highlighting the disengagement from school among some black youth is the role of discipline in their schools. Nationally, black students are suspended from school nearly 4 times more often than white students. Ultimately, daily tensions between teacher and student lead to a disengagement from school, where students who are the targets of such discipline began to question the meaning of school and the possibility of success. The third is social psychology. Social psychologists argue that immediate contextual factors have a powerful impact on the achievement gap, and that the racial gap in achievement is as much artifact as fact. Research finds that stereotype trait has a documented impact on academic performance. Stereotype trait theory proposes that members of groups for whom strong stereotypes are present will feel stressed when asked to perform a task that could confirm this stereotype. For example, that blacks are less intelligent than whites prompts a feeling of stress, which then interferes with the ability to perform the task. Their weakened performance ultimately confirms and perpetuates the stereotype of poor performance. Next is a clash of cultures. Schooling beyond black and white. While the black and white achievement gap has received the most attention from scholars and policymakers, it is not the only educational disparity in the United States. The first is Hispanic student, cultural tensions, and legal status. Hispanic students have lower achievement scores, lower rates of high school graduation, and are less likely to enroll in college compared to white and Asian American students. Generalizing about this population is difficult thus for at least two reasons. The one, it is a group that contains considerable geographic and cultural diversity. Two, Some of this diversity relates to immigration status, generation, generational status, or time spent in the United States, and English language skills. The second is Native Americans and the push for culturally responsive schooling. Native American groups have also experienced profound cultural crises within the educational system. Across the United States, Native Americans have the lowest educational outcomes of any racial or ethnic group. The third is Asian American students, a model minority. The fact that Asian Americans are well assimilated into mainstream society and have the highest incomes in the United States has earned them the label model minority. Americans of Asian descent have the highest level of achievement on standardized exams and highest level of educational attainment as measured by college completion. Comprising about 5% of the US population, Asian Americans are a heterogeneous group encompassing population with distinct cultural and linguistic traditions and modes of incorporation into the United States. Statistically, they are typically lumped together and are praised for their achievements. And then the fourth is international interlude, racial or ethnic differences and inequalities in global context. In an increasingly globalized world, it is not just the United States that struggles to achieve educational equity among immigrants and minority groups. In Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, the education of indigenous groups parallels the experiences of Native Americans in the United States. Next is efforts to combat racial or ethnic inequalities in education. Many programs exist that attempt to change and improve the situation for minority students, like choice programs, vouchers, and charter schools. School choice programs, including voucher programs and charter schools, constitute one reform effort based on this market-based philosophy. With voucher programs, students can either apply their voucher toward private school tuition or use it to transfer out of their school to a higher performing public school. Next is cultural, culturally relevant education. Multicultural education refers to any form of education or teaching that incorporates the histories, texts, values, beliefs, and perspectives of people from different cultural backgrounds. A multicultural approach to education seeks to provide a culturally relevant curriculum that students can connect to on a deeper level, one that provides them with self-understanding, pride, and confidence. Within a social justice framework, multicultural education also provides students from dominant groups with a broader understanding of history and cultural differences, with the eventual goal of reducing discrimination and making improvement towards social, political, and economic equity. The third is Minority Serving Institutions, MSIS. Minority serving institutions include the well-known category of historically black colleges, and universities, as well as the lesser known categories of Asian American and Pacific Island serving institutions, Hispanic serving institutions. One thing that unites them is that many are under-resourced and serve a population of students that is less college ready than those at predominantly white institutions. And then the last point is racial and ethnic inequalities in education, past, present, and future. Despite decades of school integration and reform, persistent racial and ethnic gaps remain in educational achievement and attainment. Fundamental change in the situation of minority students will not come about without individual and structural change involving education, family, and efforts to empower minority students rather than disenfranchise them. This is a formidable task, considering the difficulty of changing power relations in society. Finally, the open systems perspective reminds us that problems of equality go far beyond the effect of schools alone. Schools may be the nursery of integration, but equal access to housing, healthcare, equal pay for equal work, employment opportunities, and many other areas must also be considered in the fight for equality of opportunity. Okay, guys, thank you for your attention. I hope this material that I tell to you will give us benefit. May Allah always guide and protect us from something bad. Thank you so much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.